T and XP acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Turrbal and Yagara people, and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Welcome to T and XP, a couple's cozy gaming podcast.
We're feeling cozy and we hope you are too.
I'm Alexander.
And I'm Erin.
T and XP is like a book club for cozy video games. And today, we're going to be looking at the visual explosion that is Gris, or possibly Gris.
My brain immediately went to venting prevents explosion, which is just a Simpsons reference that is showing my age there as well. So, how about I introduce Gris? We're just going to call it Gris because we're Australian and that's how we say it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
The plan, not the way you say Gris.
Yeah, that's probably an abomination. Made by Namada Studios, a Spanish company, Gris is a gentle platformer puzzle. You have to run and jump and get some timing right, and you have to use visual cues on the screen to progress the game. It was released in 2019 and has sold over 3 million copies. It was also nominated for a ton of different awards and won many, including awards for visual design, character design, and gameplay.
So that sounds like a pretty good start, but why don't you tell us why we picked this game as episode number 3?
Because it is a very cozy game. It follows some of my favorite elements of cozy games, which is you can't die and there are no time constraints. And I love both of those things very much in gaming. It is a visual masterpiece. It is a game that anyone who likes any kind of artistic direction or design should play at least once if they're into video games. And it is very moving and emotional story, even though the narrative is told completely without words. And I think that is really clever storytelling and worth reviewing.
But this was also one of the first video games you basically played as an adult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was actually the first video game I bought for myself. So you bought me my first video game or cozy video game as we spoke about in episode 1, but this was the first one that I did my own little research and went off and found it, and so that's nice and special for it as well.
Why don't you tell us a bit about the actual game itself, the mechanics, how you play it, how it plays?
Okay, so the gameplay and the storyline are actually quite intertwined in Gris. And Gris, as many listeners would know, means grey in languages like Spanish and French. Basically, you start off in this little black and white world and you can't actually run or jump at all. You can move forwards or backwards and you fall over a lot if you try and go too fast. It's a metaphor. And you slowly learn how to do both, running and jumping. Then red is introduced. And so basically, it's a very simple puzzle platformer. You're just scrolling left to right, you're jumping up and down a bit, you're moving through the scenery. It's like Mario, but with art. And but no combat or anything trying to get you. It's just really beautiful because, like I said, it starts in black and white, and then all of this is hand painted watercolor, and the color red is introduced. And so suddenly you get these hot, angry red winds that try and blow you over, and you have to learn how to navigate this different landscape besides this just black and white space. And that becomes really interesting and so beautiful. Just this idea that you start in this world devoid of color, and then these hot winds. I assume they're hot. I don't think it's, specifically mentioned, but it looks like this desert landscape. And then as you progress through the levels, different colors are introduced and different things and abilities are unlocked. So you can end up moving faster. You can do, your double jump. Your character ends up discovering some really delightful mechanics right at the end that I don't actually want to spoil for people.
Yeah, and so as you play, one of the things you figure out pretty quickly is the narrative, that each level has this color and ability represented to it, and that's tied to a stage of grief. That's more or less spelled out for you. It's even there in the Steam achievements, just in
Yes.
case you didn't get it. But it's still beautifully presented. The way it shifts from this bleak, stark white first level to then these red, raging maelstroms and sandstorms in the second one. And that's where you learn to, turn yourself into a brick, which you can use to either
Weather the storm.
but you can also use it to smash things. Metaphor.
Yay.
And yes, like you said, the underwater level, it's got these beautiful blues introduced, but it's also got these really dark depths and this kind of claustrophobia and just a sense of depression.
The elegance and the detail, the visual is just so rich. And I found myself, again, I say this a bit, stopping and just staring at it at some points. Some of the structures in the landscape, so the world that you move through, it actually looks like something like a Dali painting or sketch. It's just this abstract, gorgeous thing. They have different little rocks that move and leggy things moving through the landscape. It's lovely. And there are motifs of crumbling buildings, and there's stars, a lot of stars and motifs of stars as you navigate different landscapes and the challenges. And there are a few activities that require timing, such as there's some cubist trees in the forest. As you were saying, though, it's no secret that the whole thing is a metaphor for grief. You start off the game in this big stone hand, and it shatters and your world is shattered, and this little character falls to earth. I found this actually really beautiful the first time I played it, but the second time I played it through, because I knew the themes of grief and very literal grief. Like, this person, you realize that a mother or a mother figure has died for them. Again, not a spoiler. And so the second time I played this, I found that opening scenes really hit me quite hard. Just the journey that this little character is about to go on, that they are working through these very real, beautiful stages of grief and trying to come back from that. And yeah, it was quite challenging second time round for me to play it, knowing what this little guy was going to go through.
So there's no particular secret to the narrative there. That on the first level they're not subtle about the metaphor, but it doesn't make it any less beautiful as you're walking through these huge crumbling temples filled with
Mm.
sobbing statues.
Yes, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, and the scenery initially looks sort of random, but then as you go through all the different colored levels, you realize that it is actually the same scenery, but with different colors and elements reintroduced as you sort of rebuild and recover after the death of this loved one.
Yeah, so after the red level there'll be like obviously the color red, but there'll also be like a
Mhm.
bit more life. There'll be some scuttling insects and these strange beings and birds in the background. But they're all kind of very abstract animals, and then we'll start introducing a bit of greenery from the green level. Then on the blue level, you'll start having a bit of flowing water and a bit more life. And these scenes will start to become a bit more familiar, but also you'll see this, kind of recovering after this terrible tragedy which has struck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And it's accompanied by a really carefully selected and created soundtrack as well, which you can find on good listening platforms as well. It's really beautiful too. You need to fall asleep to something really moving. It's delightful.
I feel like we just cannot do enough credit to the visuals just trying to describe it. We have these blooming watercolors kind of erupting on the screen to represent both the weather and, again, the stages of grief. It is beautifully done. And even if you just look up a trailer or something, it's something you should check out for yourself.
Yeah, even if it's not a game that you're interested in, yeah, I think that's a really great suggestion. Just have a look at a trailer because it is art. It is so beautiful. And of course, it is still a game. There is still some lovely puzzles where, it's move this, lift that, figure this out, but they're always very gentle. They're always very visually led. I would be surprised, I think, if you had to look anything up for it. I'm trying to remember my first playthrough, and I think there was one very minor one where I got the timing a bit slow. It took me ages to get, and that's just because of my own reflexes, not because of the actual game difficulty. Yeah, you wander around and try things out, and you can figure out all the puzzles, I think, without too much effort.
So I'd say you can progress through all the levels without looking anything up or without too much effort.
Yeah.
If you're a big completionist, then it might be a little tricky because there's a little side quest that basically pick up these stray constellations you see dotted around the map.
Yes, yeah.
And I think we didn't get 100% on that, and I
No.
think that what you'd probably need to look up if it's going to annoy the life out of you not getting it.
That's true. I mean, we picked up all the constellations we need for gameplay because you do need some of them. But yes, I think that's right. If you're a completionist and I'm not, I like the idea of it, but not the execution. Yeah, I suppose you could look those up if they were something that was really important to you. One of the things I love about the gameplay, and one reason why it's a cozy game for me, is that even though there are themes of loss and grief, you can't die and you can't get hurt.
One thing I'd add is that the game doesn't feel like it's ever really coddling you,
Yes, you feel like you have space to do, like to explore, to figure it out. Yeah, you can wander around.
but there's still some quite dramatic moments in the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember being completely freaked out when I thought I was being like chased by an eel. or bird.
Yep, there's the giant screeching bird, which, again, metaphor for
It's a
anger.
metaphor.
Yep, and you need to try and drown it out by ringing the bells, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get the swelling music and the big dramatic showdown. And so it doesn't feel like it's, putting you in this very safe space. You still get to explore a lot of, maybe not peril, but a lot of tension and a lot of narrative.
Yeah. It really is a really clever depiction of the themes of grief and loss and the way it ties into the gameplay and the different stages of the game. There's parts of the game where you think things are getting better and things are really looking up for your character. And then you get this sort of setback or knockback where, yeah, you end up falling back in a bit of a pit. It's a metaphor, although there's probably literal pits in this game, actually. And yeah, just the idea that this grief and loss is not a linear journey out of as well is very real and powerful. And I think a really, even if you haven't had like death, loss, or death grief in your life, I think it is a really powerful and interesting theme or set of themes that the game ends up exploring.
Yeah, so I think this is a game which everyone's going to get something out of, just because obviously grief and loss is quite a universal theme.
Mm.
But the game's done it really beautifully, the way it depicts it, and the way it kind of leaves space for it to be about your grief or your loss or something.
Yes, not everyone's going to end up in tears playing this game, but you might. It just depends on where you're at this point in time.
We've talked a lot about the artwork and we've talked a lot about the themes because obviously these are the strongest parts of the game. But there's still a very solid platformer underneath all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's a very pleasant, playable game. It's, I like a puzzle. I like a puzzle and a platform. So that's good.
And just because it's safe and it's cozy doesn't mean it holds your hand the whole time. It'll still
No.
put you through your paces here and there.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you describe it in terms of our coziness rating? Our coziness rating is, of course, the rating that we give it from 5 being very, very, very cozy to 1 being just cozy enough to count as a cozy game. What would you give it then on a coziness rating?
I don't think cozy has to be wholesome and feel good. I
Agreed.
think with this one, it can be this really thoughtful and introverted and beautiful kind of exploration of a really vulnerable topic. I would give this a 4 out of 5 coziness.
Ooh, I'm not sure if I think I'd be maybe I know we said we wouldn't give point fives, so maybe I have to give it a 4 as well, but it's like a tentative 4, just because some of those themes might be quite heavy for people,
Okay.
so I think it depends on where your headspace is at the moment that you approach the game. So I'd give it a 3 or a 4, but I'm not going to give it a 3.5 because we said we wouldn't do that. Take that information how you will. It is a cozy game, absolutely. It's a very cozy game, but it just has themes that are going to impact everyone in different ways.
Yeah. And in terms of recommending this game, I believe you actually recommended it to your mother.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, so like Unpacking, Gris is a game that I ended up recommending and buying for my mum. Oh, how old's my mum? She's
Let's not go
70.
into that. Yeah.
Old. No, no. No, I ended up recommending this to my retired aged mother, and yeah, she really loved it. She played it multiple times. She played it from a completionist point of view. This was one of her major forays into gaming as an adult.
And I was really surprised by that, just because her first game had been Unpacking, and this was her second. And I was like, oh, this is going to be too much of a leap, because this is quite a gamified game. Like, it's a
Yeah, it's a
platformer.
platform. Yeah, absolutely. No, she really ran with it. And yeah, she really got into it. She was actually, her playing this game was the catalyst for our discussion talking about accessibility in games as well. Like obviously I'm talking to mum about gaming and I'm like, what are you thinking? And one of the things that she started mentioning is as a retired age person was things like, oh, this is really good. But after some of the really like jump and run kind of sections of the game, she would comment on that her hands would hurt. And this happens more in some other games that we're going to talk about down the track later in the season. This didn't happen too much in Gris, but just the idea that a really different perspective that neither of us had really had to think about. So we look at games from the point of view of Alex being a very experienced gamer and me being a very inexperienced gamer. But the idea of the perspective that mum brought to just the gameplay was really interesting. The idea that she was playing Gris initially on a keyboard, and I think by the end of this game or the start of perhaps the next one she was playing, she ended up going out and buying a game controller. I was so proud of her. I didn't even walk her through that. She just went out and researched and bought her own controller. It was very cute. But yeah, absolutely. She adored it. She thought the artwork in it was just, moving and rich and all the things that we've said basically. But it was really impressive to see that this was a game that could reach across different generations and still have such a universal impact on people, both from a gameplay perspective and emotional perspective.
And look, all credit to your mum, but I think it also speaks to the game's ability to, like you said, just be really accessible to
Mm,
everyone. And yeah, just again with the visuals and the narrative and whatnot,
yeah,
there's something there for everyone.
yeah.
Like, I don't think your mum went into this being like, oh yes, it has elements of Metroidvania, and yeah,
Yes, she doesn't have many points of comparison, let's just say.
and yet she still had this fantastic time with the game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great testimony to Gris, and it's why personally I would I would give Gris a 5 out of 5. I thought it was a great game, one of the best games I've ever played.
Look, I'd agree with that. I don't really know what you could fault. The gameplay was good, the visuals and music, I know everyone's sick of hearing me say it by now, but it was absolutely breathtaking, and everything was just so beautifully presented.
Mm,
I would give it 5 out of 5 as well.
nice. But if you liked Gris, you might also like games such as Journey, Ori, and The Blind Forest, and Namada's latest game, Never. If you've only played Gris, these games might be others you'd enjoy exploring.
Well, I think that just about wraps up this episode, but do you want to tell us what's coming up next?
I do. So episode 4 is going to be Night in the Woods, which is a really different kind of game. Definitely will have some different things to unpack for that one.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening to T&XP, a couple's cozy gaming podcast. Stay cozy.
Like a helpful forest friend.